All right, let's rock and roll. Here we go. Ready?
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Table Rush Talk Show, where we dive deep into the world of entrepreneurship, marketing, and personal growth. I'm your host, Mischa Zvagensov, and today's guest is Renan Devillieres, the visionary founder and CEO of OSS Ventures. Renan is revolutionizing the manufacturing sector by launching tech startups that tackle real world challenges. With a track record of creating over 20 companies deployed across more than 2,000 factories, he's bridging the gap between traditional operations and cutting edge technology. Renan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You know, this is crazy. I do have my show script. I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, but I mean, you're up to when you start talking about factories and deploying stuff and this and that. I mean, I'm like, wow. I was actually a little intimidated when I saw you were coming on. I was like, all right, this is going to be fun. But let's kick things off. Renan, tell us what you actually do at OSS Ventures and why it matters right now.
So I have a team of 20 people and we go to factories 1 to 3 times a week. We go to factories and we speak to everyone there. We have 14,000 hours of user research. When we see an issue that is happening almost at every factory that we visit, then we say, hey, we should launch a software company to solve the thing. And so we launch a company, we start building with the factories, and we call tech founders, usually exited founders, like people who have created a tech company, and we say, hey, you've made some money doing like Uber for pet food or whatever. And so come with us in a factory and let's solve real problem. It just so happens that I already have your first 3 clients. And so they join and we create the company together. And when the company is de-risked, so making $500,000 revenue, then the founders go on their merry way and we get out of the way and they actually create the company, recruit the team, everything. In a little less than 5 years, we've done that 22 times. 11 companies went to Series A. We are live in 2,200 factories around the world. And there are roughly 600 people working in all the companies that we created. It's total madness.
Wow. Let me repeat what I just heard, or a piece of it. There's 20 of you going to
Yeah.
20 factories a week, and you're looking at how software can help their process, get them better
Yes.
ROI, streamline stuff, efficiencies, whatever.
Yes,
And
sir.
then you create a software company to execute on that, and then you
Yes.
go find uh, 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 people with money to invest in it,
Yep.
and then you solve problems. It's literally sounds like a win-win-win for everybody.
Oh, yeah. I love my job.
This is crazy. So that begs the next question. How the heck does this come about? I mean, that's just, it's genius. It's genius, but uh, like, lay it out for me.
So I would like to be inspiring and everything, but it actually comes out of frustration. So I created a tech company. I was lucky enough to sell my shares. And so I made a bit of money, a fair bit of money. And then I said, hey, I spent more than 5 years in manufacturing operations. I love it. I love factories. Like I'm a nerd. If you're a real nerd, you love factories. So I love factories and I sold a tech startup. I'm going to use my money and I'm going to invest in tech startup for factories. And it was back in 2019. And I realized a few things. One, there were like literally no startup for the field. Two, most startups, they had immense trouble going into the factories and understanding pain points because people from tech don't go to factories and people from factories don't know tech. And so I said, okay, I cannot be an investor. So rather than investing, I'm going to create the damn things myself. So I literally created OSS Venture because I could not be an investor because there were not enough startups.
Wh- What was the company in 2019, I think, that you said you exited out of?
So the name is Chance, and it's still up there, like it's a 300 people company, something like that. And it's leveraging AI to recruit people without having to speak with a recruiter.
Okay. And that sounds like it's not anything to do with factories. So, all right, there's got to be something where the frustration, did you have a dream one night and realize that there's this separation between factories and tech, or were you consulting somewhere, or I mean that's
So
quite, yeah, go ahead.
I come from the operations world before creating my company. And so I was kind of like hiding my operations background from tech, and I was hiding my tech background from operations people. And I also visited the Tesla Gigafactory, and I had visited maybe hundreds of factories, and it was really different. And I was like, okay, this is my iPhone moment. I Factories can be run like tech companies. That was a big aha moment for me. And so then I decided to become an investor. And then I realized I couldn't be an investor. So I became a builder and I created OSS Ventures.
Amazing. How did you end up at the Tesla gig factory?
Oh, one friend was working with her. And so he said to me, you need to see this because it's very different.
And so Elon is on the cutting edge doing it right. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yes.
Awesome. And so you saw this and had this epiphany of, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
Elon's busy building all his cars and whatever he's doing, but he's on to something here if it's done right.
Let me take an example. Um, you go to a manufacturing company, a regular one. They have 40 factories. Inside of their 40 factories, they may have 4,000 CNCs, so machines that can be programmed. You usually will look at 500 programmers, maybe 1,000 programmers, and each programmer is local to his local factory, and each programmer manually pushes code to machines. At Tesla, at BYD, at other visionaries companies, you have like 10 times less developers, and a machine developer who's living in California can push code for the Shanghai Gigafactory. So you literally like, can you imagine Microsoft running a local version of Windows in each plant? Like, what? That's the reality of manufacturing.
This is incredible. And you literally have a moment where I'm just thinking of you sitting there and with your experience and everything, and you're like, oh my gosh, like
Yeah.
I can bring this to market,
Yep.
the streamlining effect, this upgrading, up leveling, and
Yep.
scale.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. And man, I'm thinking too of the inspiration to bring in outside investors to build the software to do that. How does that come about? Did you have that epiphany at the same moment, or?
So it was slightly after. I was like, so one thing that I really like is trying to imagine the world in 10 years and then say, okay, what's the trade? So I think in 10 years, factories will run 40 softwares. Those 40 softwares are going to be from different companies. And those companies will be huge. And so I said, okay, I cannot build one big company that will beat them all. I need to throw as many things on the wall as I can. And so the best way of doing that was actually solving the cold start problem and then getting outside investors to push the company forward.
It's that's very inspired. This I love this story. This is great. So let's paint the picture. Who's the ideal founder or partner that lights you up to support?
So 70% of our founders are second-time founders. One thing I often say to them is, would you hire someone who cannot read a plan to be a factory director? You would not. Okay, so to hire someone to be the founder of a company, you would take someone working in tech and who already did it once. So second-time founder, we love to work with people who are understanding what we are trying to do and the vision of the world that we have. Like, I have a daughter. I'd like my daughter to work in operations, but to be better paid than the Wall Street or tech people. I would like her to work in a factory and have a blast and have a very high paying job. And I want her to be very proud to work in a factory because there are like 100 people per factory, but they are highly paid. It's automated, it's beautiful, and there is code everywhere. It's as fun as running a tech company. And so when people are fired up about that vision and they already created a tech company, like incredible things happen. Like we had a company going to 1 million revenue in 7 months with like 3 people in it. So this is the kind of thing that can happen because operations are starved for that.
Are there specific manufacturing sectors you're targeting right now?
Nope. We are deployed in 2,200 factories. We are deployed in 43 countries. So like we have a very, very, very diverse base. I would say that we have a very strong foot in space, transportation, luxury, pharmaceutical, agro. Because there's one thing maybe for your listeners, if they are not from that world, every single thing that you wear that is in your house, that you're using, that you're eating, comes out from a factory. There's a lot of factories out there.
It's mind boggling if you really think about it. It is really mind boggling. All right, I've got some other fun questions in that regard, but I want to go back to your, let's call it your origin story. You spent a lot of time at OECD. Can you
Yeah.
say what is that OECD? And then
So,
how? Oh, go ahead.
oh,
Oh yeah, I was going to say, yeah, say what that acronym stands for, and then how did your time there shape your worldview around tech, policy, sustainability?
yeah. So OECD is an Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Um, it's basically a bunch of like 600 economists that were put in Europe because there was a Marshall Plan after the war. And so the US said, okay, we are going to give a lot of money to Europeans. It's going to be a disaster if we give the money directly. So we need to put 600 economists here and they will be the ones giving the money. And so you have 600 economists in Europe saying, hey, Europe, if I were you, I would do this, and that. And so I started for my first 2 years of career, I started with that. And it was very formative because like you look at the world with like tens of billions, hundreds of billions, orders of magnitude, and you see that there's a lot of things going on. There's demographics, there are like politics, but there's also fundamental innovation in manufacturing and other things that can drive midterm change at an incredible level. I don't know if you know, but like 15 years ago, the GDP of Europe was higher than the United States. And now it's like 30% less. And so things matter a lot at a like 10 to 15 years time frame. And so the good thing when I made some money after exiting my company was, okay, I'm young, like I'm 35. I want to do something for 15 years. So what matters? And I ended up saying, okay, we need to have incredible abundance in energy, physical things, everything. And it's going to be factories with tech in it. And so I said, okay, 15 years of my life, let's go.
So, quick question: 15. If I just heard you correctly, the 15 years ago, the EU economy was bigger than the US. Now it's less than the US. What's the main driver of that, or what's the yeah?
So we missed tech. So if you put the Magnificent Seven on top of the European economy, you get back to the US level. But Europe has not produced a single tech giant in the last 15 years. So that's one. And the other one is we have lost factories at a rate that is absurd, like hundreds of factories per year. And actually, there's a lot of thinking that an economy can work without factories. If you're like a real country, like a sizable country, no. Like it's like saying a house doesn't need running water if you have Wi-Fi. No, like no, you need both. And so the fact that all the factories went to China, then China created tech giants because they had the factories making the phones, and the Silicon Valley is named Silicon Valley because of silicon, because there were fucking factories over there. And so if you lose the factories, you lose the engineers, you lose the know-how, you lose the grip on the physical world, and then all the economy collapse, basically.
Do you have a broader vision of bringing factories back to the EU, or
Oh, US, yes.
yeah?
Uh, uh, yeah, in the US, it is going to happen. In EU, I'm not sure. But in the US, so I have a number for you. Um, in the 24 months period, that is last 6 months and next 18 months, the total budget on constructing new factories in the United States is going to be more than the 10 years before. That's the magnitude of what's happening.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not to go political on you, is Trump driving a lot of that, help drive that, or is that outside
Alex,
of
it,
him?
it, it started before with what they call the CHIPS Act. Like basically right now, if you want to create a factory for like chips, you go to Texas, you get 2 years without taxes, and you get half your electricity, like you get half of the price of electricity off. I mean, all right,
Let's
for
do
sure,
it.
I'm going to the factory over there. And so, like the long-term trend is that chips are coming back, robotics are coming back, and also the cost of labor of China and other countries, it has been rising. And so you don't go to China anymore because of the cost equation. You go for the ecosystem. You go there because there are like a zillion people doing manufacturing. But when you reach a certain critical mass in the US, like the network is strong enough, then reshoring is going to happen. And it's already full blast. We are seeing it in all the numbers. That's why we are setting up a bureau in Boston. Like we are going to Boston because 20% of the growth of our companies over the last year is the US, and we don't have a single sales rep in the US. So,
It's time to get after it. Well, yeah, you've painted a vision of hope for U.S. manufacturing. I love that. Thank you for that. Being a U.S. citizen, that bodes well for me, or us. I mean, as a country and our economy. That's yeah, that's inspiring to hear. Thank you for sharing that information. Uh, Um, OSS, you founded that in Brazil. Is that right? Is it still Brazilian? And why
yeah,
there versus? Oh, go ahead.
I was living in Brazil when I launched OSS, but I've since moved back like 6 months after creating the thing. So the bulk of the team is in Paris, but we are opening the Boston bureau, and we expect in 18 months to be half in Boston and half in Paris.
Awesome. Okay, let's go back to last question in or the previous question and about who you help or who you're targeting. I'd asked you, are there specific manufacturing sectors you target? And your answer was great. Like everything's manufacturing, basically. Even the food that you're putting in your mouth is coming out of
Yes.
a factory. So I love that. Um, what mindset or traits do you look for in a founder before building with them?
So counterintuitively, I would say that the main trait is grit. So the ability to get punched in the mouth about like 30 times a day and get up on your feet. Um, the second trait would be absolute honesty and ethics. It's very easy to drift very fast. And then it would be, I would say, salesmanship, but really ability to bring people together and to say, okay, this is the vision, this is where we're doing it, and to bring a lot of people. Because at the end of the day, clients want to work with you because you impact them on the vision. Um, Early employees go with you, investors go with you because you explain to them that the world is going to be like that because you said so. So, and so that's what we are looking for. Um,
I, I think the second one you said was absolute honesty.
yeah.
So yeah, and that's does that weed out a lot of companies or a lot of
Unfortunately,
potential?
yes.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, yes.
yeah.
Like, and also honesty is, it's more than just not telling lies. It's also when there is someone not performing in the team, to not wait, to just have the conversation. When you doubt about a product vision or a current project, to instantly say, hey, I have a bad feeling about that. Like this kind of instant feedback, this kind of telling it like it is, and the courage of saying it so. And also to have the courage to say, okay, I was wrong about that. I had a bad feeling, turned out to be great. Move on. Let's go.
I love it. So it's almost more accountability and timeliness.
Yeah.
Like let's take accountability and let's get to the point quick.
Yeah.
Like
When saying that we have at OSS is that not telling something that's on your mind is a lie.
it's good. It's good. That's inspiring. I love it. What's oh, I know. Uh how are you bridging how are you creating that bridge between manufacturing companies and the tech investors? Because it sounds like there's although it's maybe changing rapidly, there is this gap.
Oh. So the honest answer is with great difficulty. I have to tell you a story. So when I first came back to France, I I called a well-known French investor, and I said, "Yeah, I went to the Tesla Gigafactory, tech in factories, going to be used. It was before COVID, so nobody was talking about the thing. Uh, yeah, watch me and blah, 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 blah." And the guy thought for a bit and said, "But isn't manufacturing a niche?" Like, what? It's 25% of the world GDP. It's like 40% of all the people working in the world. No, it's not a niche. But the guy thought it was a niche because he never went to a factory in his whole damn life. So the honest answer is 5 to 10% of investors and money people and everything get it. And I don't need more than that. Like, I'm fine with that. And one of the biggest realization was like 2 to 3 years ago when I said, hey, I'm going to do a very simple thing. I'm going to stop talking to the 95% of people who don't get it. And I'll be just busy changing the world with the 5% who do.
And let the rest what's that?
Yeah, that was a huge relief. And a huge calendar sync just disappeared.
And the rest will fall into line. They have to.
Yeah. When it becomes obvious, then the rest will say that they were convinced all the way and good for them. Like, I don't care.
Yeah. How are you finding these factories and getting in the door? What's the pitch?
Yes. So the first year was really different than the 3 years after. The first year was 4 people, including me, and I would call factory directors and I would say, hey, look, you probably are thinking, could I put tech in my factory and everything? And so you have 3 options. Option 1, you do nothing. Option 2, you call like Accenture or McKinsey or BCG or all those guys. And a bunch of 22-year-olds are going to listen to your issues, run them on Google and create some slides, and it's going to cost you 20K. Or we go to your factory. It's going to cost you 0. And we do the report, but we also have a benchmark base. And the people who are going to go there are 26-year-old, but they come from the tech world and they will not Google your issues. They will try to solve them. And so I had about 30% hit rate there, which is good.
Yeah.
And so I got the first like 50 factories. After the 50 factories, like we were very lucky because our first company was a total disaster. We shut down the company, but the second one found product market fit very easily. And it went on a rocket ship trajectory. They just raised the Series B of $25 million. And so I was saying, hey, I'm Renan. I'm the founder of this company that you know about. We went to 50 factories and we can benchmark your factory and everything. And so everything got better with time and image and everything. So there were really 2 time frames.
I'm just thinking of the numbers. It's mind-boggling to me right now how you and your team have 2,200 factories or whatever that number is and growing over
Yep.
5 years or
Yep.
that is incredible. You
That's
guys,
scale.
yeah, that is awesome. That's inspiring. What's the biggest reason industrial companies hesitate to work with OSS or adopt new startup technologies?
So to understand the world of manufacturing, you need to understand what is physical constraints. So a factory is 1,000 machines, people, processes running together. And if one thing goes wrong, the line stops and you're losing tens of thousands of dollars per minute. So if your average tech guy comes and say, hey, let's move fast and break things. No. Not going to fly. Not going to. So a lot of factory directors are very hesitant to work with tech people. And
That
so
is
what's,
amazing. That's amazing. You're literally going in and going, I know you're efficient and kind of running, or you're running enough. You're paying the
yeah,
bills. But we
yeah,
want to break your system and
yes.
help you. And they're like, no. Oh my gosh.
I remember like maybe the 5th factory was actually, this is very French. It was a croissant factory. And the guy, like, he was making all the croissants for like the Paris airport, for like all those big places. And he said to me, oh no, I'm making 100,000 croissants per day. So just don't fuck it up. And I was like, all right, I'll try. So, so if you want to penetrate a factory with tech, it has implications. That base truth has implications. The first is you don't do small projects. Like you won't change one of your processes if you're a factory director to gain 0.5% efficiency because the risk is too much. You can have a limited number of projects going on. So it needs to be big. So that's first. Counterintuitively, you would say, oh, this is a big system. I don't want to touch it. So I'm going to do a small thing. No, small things don't get past the factory door. So one, it has to be big. 2, you have to think like an engineer going to Google and say, hey, I have a great idea for your search algorithm. Let me try. So the sales is very different. You have to show that you're the real deal. You have to show extreme honesty, extreme humility, to be really diligent with how you do things. once you prove at a small scale that your thing is making a big impact, manufacturing people, they usually run multi-million, multi-hundreds of million, multi-billion dollar operations. So they know how to scale fast. So for example, one of our companies, they created a system leveraging AI that tells basically everyone what to do at the right time with the right level of information. They ran a test in one factory. 1 year later, they're in 40 factories all over the world, and they made a little over 40 million savings for their client. So that's the scale. And like in tech and in SaaS, it's very rare to have that kind of impact at a client. And so, yeah, it's a different world. But if you do it right, you get the prize, which is fast scaling.
Hey, quick question. Anybody that's made it this far in this interview with you, and are you hiring? Are you like, hey, come to Boston and
Yeah.
let's get you ramped up?
Yes, for sure. Like, not only OSS is hiring, but there are like dozens of positions open in all the companies that we created. And 3 of them are going to set up a bureau in Boston, hiring remotely for sales, operation, product development, software engineering. I think we'll have 50 positions open. So yeah, please come.
How are people, if literally I know people will hear this and go, oh my gosh, I need to be a part of this. And I'm just telling you, I'm listening to this right now, and you can hear noise about recession or problems or this or that, but what you're saying is so inspiring. It's so hopeful, and it's scaling and building. So it's really exciting.
And
So
also, there's something about manufacturing and operations is that it is very real. Like, if you're running the thing and it goes 20% faster, it's real. Like, it's very different from all those tech products that you like. Is it working? Is it even a thing? Like, yeah, I'm doing interbank treatment of KYC. Yeah, okay, maybe. I mean, yeah, maybe. Like, but I'm making croissant go 20% faster, and there's 100,000 of them per day.
you are literally changing the landscape of France, of Paris.
We actually have only 20% of our sales in France. 40% is in Europe, and we have 20% in the US already. So yeah, and like I have that map with all the factories we're in, and like it's the most beautiful thing. I love it.
It's good. What fears or myths are keeping factories from embracing software?
Mm. So one thing I would say is factories have been very, very badly treated by software for a long time. And so there's that belief that it must be slow, it must be like it must look old. Like, half of factories, like a little under half of factories, still have AS 400 systems, which are like IBM era systems. Black screen, green texts, 40% of the factories in the US. And so that's software for. And so when you come and you say, hey, maybe we can do like 2 points EBITDA, and it's going to be like a 3-month project. Like, some factory directors are like, like, never seen that. Yeah, for sure, but let's try. So there's that myth that it must be old. That it's not, yeah, that it's not scaling well. That it has to look ugly to look smart. And so, but we are actually fighting that, and most factory directors are starting to get the same.
Yeah, eh, excuse me. Yeah, I'm seeing a factory director hearing you and looking over at their CRT monitor, going, what? No way.
We had a verbatim. So one of the companies that we created is an ERP. So for your listeners, ERP are those big systems where like the most important processes are coded. And we said, okay, we're going to create an ERP that can be coded in 2 weeks. It's going to be no code, and the end user is going to code their process and not some consultant for SMBs. So we created that. The founder went to, I think it was a hat factory. And the guy sat and said, I don't believe you, but I'm going to pay you because I want you. Like, if there's 5% of chance that this works, then it's okay. And the founder was like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. Tell me a story, one that will give people goosebumps or make them go, wait, that's possible, of a transformation you've had in a factory.
All right. Prepare. It's a good one. So, one of our founders is named Kevin. Kevin's mom worked in a factory as an operator. Kevin's grandmom worked in a factory as an operator. Kevin created marketing. Marketing is a software with AI that says, okay, where have you been working, in which factory, which skills, which blah, 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 blah. And it creates like that card saying, okay, you know how to do that, how to do that, how to do that. Here are learning opportunities, here are jobs opportunities. And then you can get matched with factories and you can work in the factory and the factory upskills you using the right skills and everything. So leveraging a lot of AI and everything. All right. Second factory that they implemented is called La Redoute, which is like it's a smaller version of Walmart. Let's put it like that. 1,200 people. They implemented marketing in that. Turnover got divided by 2, and the new responsible for learning and development in the factory was got promoted because she was busted by the AI saying, hey, this girl that's been working there for 20 years actually has the skills. And so stop treating her like some no skill right out of graduate school girl. She's actually full of skills and everything, and she got promoted. And the girl told Kevin, I think if marketing had been there at the time, your mom and your grandmom would have been promoted.
Mm. Mm.
3 years later, marketing is live in 600 factories. They have 110,000 users, and it is estimated that those users get promoted 20% faster and get 40% more training than when there is not marketing.
Mm. That's awesome.
And that's
It's,
that's on them. Like, they are busy changing the world. Yeah.
it's counterintuitive a little bit to what we expect when we hear about AI and automation and all these sorts of things. Really, that's a hopeful vision that you're presenting.
So, literally 2 hours ago, I was with one COO of a very well-known US-based plastic company. And he said to me, oh no, here is my very simple vision. There's going to be 10 times more things produced. There's going to be the same number of people working in factory, maybe less, but they're going to have pays that are going to be as good as in tech, as good as finance. And they're going to manage complex systems of AI, augmented machines and everything. And they are going to have a blast. Like, Google is not a company that has like 3 employees and the rest is AI and code. Google is a big almost company with a lot of people, but they don't code individually each thing. And so this is the future that's going to happen. The level of leverage that people in factories are going to have will be similar to that of tech companies. And so, yes, like previously very manual jobs and everything probably gets replaced in the process. But when leverage is higher, pays get higher, and usually you actually get a shortage of people. Like, there's not enough developers in the world right now, and we've been automating code for like 20 years and getting very good at it, but there's still not enough developers.
You're hiring. we've already just right. You're like, hey, we need 50 people or something like that. So, oh my gosh. All right, let's shift gears into some practical wisdom. What are the top three things every industrial founder should know about launching in your space?
The first one is it's actually a quote from Paul Graham, but it is way better to have 3 factories for which you change their life than 50 factories that you're sort of talking to. So do the work, choose the right leaders, the ones who have a vision, they want to go with you. Choose to do what we call at OSN a 10x, like 10x better than the alternative. Don't go for small things. Don't try to get 50 factories sort of using your thing, but it really doesn't matter. Like, get 3 people to have their life changed by what you did. And then when you have those 3, first, usually they are going to call all their friends and suddenly you have such clients. And 2, when you have done those 3, it's very easy to go to 300 and then to 600 and then to 2000 and make tens of millions of dollars because it's about replicating a thing that already works. And so most founders that I know, like, I think we are not patient people. And so sometimes you want to scale, but you should really be focusing on changing the life of just 3 people and then scale it.
Ooh, like that. That's
Yeah, that's some practical advice. The second practical advice would be very simple, but mind the tech, mind cybersecurity, mind all of that, because that is going to prevent you to scale. It is very easy to make a lot of mistakes on that, and that will prevent you from scaling. So, like, you're building for the foundation of our society, for God's sake. So pay attention to all those things. Like, it's serious business. So that would be the second. And yes, it's hard work, but it pays off. So that would be the second. And maybe the third um, would be something that is very important. I think it's okay if your solution is not for everyone, but it must be for someone. Like, don't push your tech because it's cool and you have that vision. But like, if you've been shouting in the desert for 6 months, maybe you're not seeing water, you're seeing sand. So
that's good. Give me 2 minutes on how to walk away. Does that make sense? I'm just finding sand. Yeah. How do you walk away from that?
counterintuitively, what we have found is most people are okay with you walking away from an idea. It's really you as a founder who is too attached to the idea. And so, especially first time founders, they're like, what will people think? Like, they will forget about you in like about 2 minutes. Like, the world is a big place. It doesn't matter in the slightest.
We are just not that important.
Ah, I mean, Adam Newman fundraised like 3 months after we work. Like, everything is possible, my friends. Like, nobody will care about you. It's okay.
Yeah. All right. What metrics do you look at before green lighting a venture?
Yeah. So we have what we call internally the 10x. And so we need to be able to demonstrate that some KPI from the client is going to be 10 times better than the alternative. So let me take an example. We recently co-partner with a former Tesla employee, number 13 employee. And we said, okay, machines are going to code themselves with minimal human impact. And so we want to go from 3 weeks to half a day to code a simple type of new machine. And so that is like the 10x. And so we often say, okay, we don't do 2x around there. We only do 10x. And so most ventures, we red light them, say, hey, it's a 2x. Like, it's 2x. So that would be the first most important. Second is very simple. When we have an idea, it's usually because we have seen that several dozens of times when we go to factories. And so what we do is we keep tabs and we say, okay, let's do 100 calls. And the rule of thumb is 100 calls. If you don't have 30 yes, then don't do it. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
a lot of
Wow.
things get red lighted at this stage, of course. So that's second. And the third one is pretty boring, but it matters. It is because of the cost of acquisition to get a factory to say yes to your product. It should be sold at least 30 to 40K per factory per year. And we need to be able to build it in 6 months. Because otherwise the math don't make sense.
Doesn't work. Yeah. All right. Rapid fire round. What book has influenced you the most this year?
I would say it's How to Live an Extraordinary Life. Like the guy is a former Navy SEAL and entrepreneur and Facebook early employee, and his kids are amazing. And he starts writing for his kids, saying, "This is how to live an extraordinary life." And he just published the book, and I was turning each page and say, "Wow, yes." So yeah, that was life changing.
Anthony
Yeah,
Pompliano. Is that who that
yeah,
is?
yeah.
Awesome.
That's the guy. He's the guy.
Cool. I will put it in the show notes. Okay. That's a great one. Thank you. Most underrated founder skill.
I would say downplaying / not drinking their own Kool-Aid. So ability to do a reality check, like a hard thing, once in a while.
That's good. That's a good one. France or Boston for innovation?
Austin,
What's a daily habit that keeps you sharp?
meditation every day, 15 minutes.
Love it. Give me expand on that for a little bit. 3 minutes.
Um, so I have that app of mindfulness, and I think I'm like on the spectrum somewhere. I have like all those ideas, and I'm constantly swimming up, like in a very, very complex set of ideas, things to do and everything. And so to be fully present during meetings, to be fully present when people talk to me, to do the right things for the company and not do the things that are not the right ones for the company, to be mindful of how I act with my teammates, with the founders, with the clients who we serve and everything. Like, I don't know how I would do it without meditation.
Yeah, that's a powerful testament to meditation. It, in effect, creates the space for all those things to happen that you just said.
Yeah. There's that metaphor that I really love about meditation, which is to say that your mind is like a river, but it's a very turbulent one. Like it has a lot of things. And meditation is not stopping the river. It's just not being in the river. It's being like 2 meters away from the river and looking at the river, which is great.
I love that. You know, in the San Francisco Bay Area, going from Berkeley or Emeryville into the city, into San Francisco, there's that frontage road. I think about meditation as like going to the frontage road and just watching the freeway noise go by.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, I guess.
Yeah. Um, favorite failure that turned into a win.
I would say. So we created a company, like the very first company that we created, very first marketplace to exchange aluminum rods between factories. Only for the aeronautics industry. So like Airbus and all those. We launched it 2 months before COVID.
Christopher?
We closed the company, and like it was my money, full my money. First company, it hurt. And then 6 months later, the former founder hit me up and she said, "Hey, there's a great potential founder. I want you to meet him, Mark." So I met with Mark. We started the company 1 month after that. And they just raised $15 million like 3 months ago. And it's a 100-person company and scaling 5x year on year. So yeah, I,
It worked out. It's good. Thank you for sharing that. Let's go a little deeper. Was there ever a moment you seriously doubted the OSS model, and what kept you going?
the model, no. My execution, yes.
Mm.
Um, like we had a rough like third year where we usually have 25% failure rate, pretty consistent. So we usually launch one company, goes well, launch one company, goes well, launch one company, goes well, launch one company, goes okay, then it slugs, and then we close the On the third year of OSS, we closed 3 companies back to back. Like for 1 year, all we were doing was it was brutal stuff. So we closed 3 companies back to back, and like we gathered with the team and we're like, hey, did we lost the mojo? What's happening? Is there no more companies to be created in the factories? And I say, and it was a very common. Looking back, we hired like 10 people, so we did X2 in the size of the team in like 3 months. And we were just out of COVID. We had a very good process in COVID, but just after COVID, the process was not good enough. And just low of numbers. Like if you have 25% failure rate, sometimes you are going to have 2 bad strokes of luck or 3. And so at this moment, what really kept me going was the first companies that we had launched were doing terrific. And the people in factories were counting on me. Like I have all those calls from factory directors saying, "Hey, Renan, you've been doing that in my factory and now it worked." I really I really look forward for you to call me and say, "I want to solve these things." Like I think we have like 15 ideas in the backlog that we are not launching right now, but for which we have at least 5 or 10 factory directors saying, "Hey, when the heck are you coming here?" So, I mean, that's what keeps me going. Like the traction is just there.
That pull, that service, and and yeah, that's good. I like the way you said that. What belief have you had to let go of in order to grow as a leader?
Mm. So it's interesting. Uh, I got a new coach like 2 years ago. We've worked on a lot of those. And one of the things that I had to let go was doing the things exactly the way I wanted them to be done. Like before creating my company, I was a factory director. I like processes. I think I'm pretty good at them. And I had to let go of doing the things precisely how I wanted them done and go to, hey, I'm going to share data with you. This is what good looks like. Those are the risks. Those are the things that I saw. So how do you want to go about it? And then like of them to realize, oh, I'm probably going to do that and to do that. And it's not exactly like I would have done the thing, but it's good and it checked the boxes.
You know what? Thank God for meditation, Renan.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And other, yeah. You sound like someone from my team.
Oh my gosh. When did you realize you had to think bigger?
Sure. Um, I think 1.5 year ago, came back to San Francisco. It had been a while. I met with one of my old friends, Riley Newman from, like, he was one of the first employees at Airbnb. And I was telling him about like the size of what we've been doing, everything. And he made quick calculations in his head and he said, that's good. That's Airbnb year 2. And I was like, this is OSS year 4. What the heck? And I got mad. So I took a decision, which is that the true increase should not mean number of factories. It should be rate of increase. So my goal is to increase the rate of increase. This is my control point now.
I love it, man. That's beautiful. Let's get this thing parabolic.
Yes, exactly.
What's a question people are scared to ask you, but you secretly wish they would?
Um, I I think a lot of founders. I'm also an angel investor, and we have like a portfolio of 20 companies. But a lot of times, I think the founders really have deep questions about themselves and the business and how to 10x, how to like go to the next stage and everything. And sometimes it's hard for them to feel vulnerable with their investor and say, hey, let's have an honest conversation. Like, what's next? How can I go there? What is the thing I'm not saying? And have that very open conversation. Like, I wish I have more of those. I have some, but I wish I had a whole lot more of those conversations.
Mm. What part of running a venture studio is harder than people think?
Um, I think so. It's harder, but I like it. I think running a venture builder or venture studio, it's 90% being in the trenches with the founders and every 6 months launching a new company. It's maybe 10% of fancy board meetings and like being smart and like having a vision or doing podcasts. That's like the so-called glamorous parts is maybe 10%, but 90%, like next week, I'm flying to Boston and I'm going in a plastic factory at 6 a.m. and I'm thrilled about it. And so if you're starting a venture studio because you think you'll be that big thinker, like having breakthrough ideas in a board meeting room while drinking champagne, this is very not my experience.
Is there a fear that still quietly drives you?
Yeah. Um, we are lucky to work with the defense industry. I've been working with the defense industry for more than 4 years, and I've never been shy of working with the defense industry. Uh, uh, and like some investors turned us down because of that, but I don't care. Uh, every 100 years, we have the big war, and it's been a while,
Mm,
and I really don't like that
mm.
because it seems like we can help us. We can't help ourselves from that. I'd really like if it has to happen, I would love it for it to happen to me and not my daughter. But it is a very real possibility, and like I'm full throw on technology, and the technology is scary.
Mm. Wow. I'm going to just let that sit for a minute. Who do you call when it all hits the fan?
Okay, it's going to sound very weird, and sorry for that. But my father was in the army, and my father passed away when I was kind of not young, but I was like 20 something. And so he wrote 10 books, created things, everything. And so I fine tuned an LLM with his books to have conversations with him.
That is awesome. What was the last thing you conversed with him about?
It was about my daughter, actually. Like, she's very independent and very stubborn. And apparently it comes from me, says my wife. So
How old is she?
she's 3.5, but
Three and a
doesn't
half.
seem like it. Seems like
Yeah.
she's 25 or something. Anyway.
Yes. Yes. I have two boys. They're 22 and 24 now, which
All right.
is, yeah, hard to believe. But both my parents passed away when I was relatively young, perhaps not as obviously young as you were when your father passed away, but I was young 40s. My sons were, I believe, 9 and 11 or something like that. And I remember when they had passed away and my boys were, did their play on stage or were learning a new instrument or doing things like that. And I remember at those moments, especially with iPhones these days, you can take pictures and document it and text those on. I remember the stark reality of like, oh my gosh, I don't have
Yeah.
parents to share this with anymore. But it's such an interesting thing. It's beautiful that you're able to channel your father through an LLM. I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah. And it's surprisingly accurate.
Yeah, that's cool. Let's go with a few more questions and then I'll let you get back to your day. What's something about your day-to-day life that would surprise people?
I think number of someone would say low level tasks, but I'm busy reviewing drawings, technical specifications, listening to client calls, going to factories, having conversations with like blue collar operator people. I People would be very surprised about that. And 10% of it is like having those big conversations with like big investors and whatever, and big money people. But that's really 10%, and 90% is, but I love it. And I think it would like every single outside people that we brought in for like a week to work with us and everything, they were surprised about that.
If you could gift every founder one book, what would it be and why?
I think it would be 0 to 1. And actually nothing stopping me from doing it, so I'll do it. I'll send them the book. What I really like about 0 to 1, like to me, 0 to 1 is the opposite from like lean startup. You read lean startup and you're like, it all is so clear. There's a framework. So it should not feel like hell and a roller coaster. It should be mundane. Like this is not my experience. So I've only launched 22 companies. So maybe I'm not experienced enough, but my experience is that it is going to be messy. It is going to feel like crap, what is going on at times, everything. And 0 to 1 is an honest entrepreneurship book, saying it like it is, and that sometimes it's going to feel like crap. You have to power through. And that's what I really like about that book. It is also like very good advice. You can feel the true entrepreneurship passion and the drive and everything. But it's also, it reads like, oh, heck, what are we going to do? Which is usually how it feels.
Yeah. That's Peter Thiel, Peter Thiel's book. Awesome. What's your factory themed superpower?
So I think I, I think I have two actually. The first, the first one is, so I'm a huge factory nerd, and I've seen a lot and a lot and a lot of factories. And so understanding a factory and the supply chain that the factory is in, like having that holistic view, is almost like being an architect at a tech company and understanding the system from a system point of view. And that's actually very hard. Like that's very hard. And I love it, and I think I'm good at it. And so usually, like, we can go to factories, we can have those conversations and everything, and we say, hey, isn't that like a very big leverage point? And they're like, huh. huh." So yeah. And I would say that's one. And the second is I just love speaking to everybody in the factory about their work. And so I really like put me 1 hour with an operator and we are going to screw some screws at the end of the 1 hour and be buddies.
Good. So good. You are in your zone. Are you having so much fun?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's call it a wrap. Renan, or say your name because you say it so well.
It's Renan Devillieres.
Renan, where can people go to connect with you, learn more about OSS Ventures, or see if they're a fit for what you do?
So go to OSS.ventures. We are actively looking for 3 types of people. First is factory people wanting to work with us. Second is founders and tech people wanting to join either OSS or a portfolio company. We have 3 companies setting up a bureau in the US this year alone. We have like 50 positions open, something crazy like that. And so, like, if you're talented and passionate about what we just discussed about, there's probably room for you and you'll be having a blast. So that's the second type of people. And the third is investors, like people wanting to put money in the startups or in the fund. We are fully subscribed now, so we don't really need the money, but we usually take some money from people who can either help with like network or factories or tech people or everything. And so very excited.
Amazing. I love it. Very concise, very well done. So many people on podcasts, when they guest, they do not have their call to action dialed in. So anybody watching or listening, that was a pro move right there.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yes. That is officially a wrap on this episode of the Table Rush Talk Show. Big thanks to Renan for bringing the goods. If this episode sparks something in you, share it with someone who needs to hear it and check out OSS.ventures to go deeper. Until next time, stay focused, stay bold, and let's go speak on some podcasts.
Thank you.
Renan, that was awesome. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Table Rush Talk Show. For resources to help you sell your stuff, go to belove.media/resources. That's belove.media/resources. And be sure to subscribe, comment, 5-star, and share. Thank you again for listening.